I have had to read this title about 5 times due to it continuously getting claimed. I worked really hard on it to try and make sure it doesn't get claimed, so I hope you all enjoy it regardless.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be defending a film that I believe receives way too much unnecessary hate. You all read the title and have seen the thumbnail, so it should be pretty obvious what this video is about. Without further ado, on with the review.
Polos is life, 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 sleep all night and then Polos is life.
Okay, so I'll be honest with you guys. This movie was on a lot at my house when I was a kid, so I've seen it many times. Almost too many times, one may add. So I will admit that this review is going to be extremely biased. A couple of years ago, a YouTuber named Ryan Hollinger released a video contextualizing the live-action Scooby-Doo movie, the subject of this video. Rewatching this video inspired me to make this review, and I really suggest that you watch it before you watch this video, if you haven't already. I've linked it in the description as I think that it provides some interesting background information about the creation of this film and why it is the way it is. The film opens with a cover of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? By Shaggy, as in the rapper, and we are introduced to the Wow Toy Factory as Mystery Inc. are trying to solve the case of the lunar ghost. What a name. We get our usual shtick as Daphne is the damsel in distress waiting for Shaggy and Scooby to act as bait and set off Fred's trap. I can get why some overly serious critics may dislike this scene, but it's playing on the classic Scooby-Doo tropes and the actors are doing such a good job in my opinion. It's supposed to be like a live-action cartoon. Once the lunar ghost is captured, we learn that in this universe, Mystery Inc. are well-known amateur detectives of celebrity status, Fred in particular being swarmed by fangirls. We also get a cameo from Pamela Anderson, who plays herself. The lunar ghost turns out to be a creepy janitor named Old Man Smithers, who decided to pull off this whole fiasco after Pamela rejected him.
How could you, Pamela? I am a lover boy of George Clooney in proportions.
What did he say?
Velma is pissed that Fred took credit for her plan again, and the group start arguing.
I'm going to kill you, Daphne!
Whoa, whoa, whoa! What's the ascot?
This joke actually made me laugh while watching this again for this review. Shaggy tries to encourage the group to stay together by using food metaphors to describe each member, but this actually causes the rest of the group to quit Mystery Inc. Nice going, Shagster. As a kid, I really loved Scooby-Doo, so this scene always made me really sad.
Shut the fuck up! My shit is on! What's this, Scooby-Doo? We're coming after you! We're gonna solve that mystery!
However, when watching it now I find it really funny. It's just so petty and stupid, especially as it's thrown at us only 7 minutes into the movie. After a time skip of 2 years, we hear the next banger from this movie's soundtrack, and are shown where Shaggy and Scooby ended up.
Oh man, talk about toasted!
Exactly where you'd expect them to. Nice stoner joke as well, movie. Shaggy and Scooby are then invited by some guy to check out an apparently haunted amusement park named Spooky Island, under the instruction of his employer, Emil Mondavarius. Totally not an obvious evil villain name. Oh so coincidentally, all of Mystery Inc. just so happened to all be invited on the exact same flight to solve the exact same mystery. Convenient. We discover what has become of the rest of the gang. Fred has written a narcissistic autobiography, Velma has been working at NASA, and Daphne has... well, you can watch the clip for yourself.
I'm a black belt now. I've transformed my body into a dangerous weapon.
Scooby has disguised himself as Shaggy's grandma so that he can board the plane, and on this plane, Shaggy meets the love of his life, Mary Jane. Really laying it thick with the stoner references, huh? Other than having Shaggy's favourite name, Mary Jane is allergic to dogs, but loves Scooby snacks, just like Shaggy. Once they reach the island, the gang meet Mondavarius, who, while rather eccentric,
oh, I can go and claws and everything.
doesn't at all seem very malicious. He just so happens to be played by the wonderful Rowan Atkinson too. Mondavarius explains that he believes the island is haunted, as the students that go there do not seem to be behaving normally once they've spent time on the island, and we get an example of such an incident.
We've known each other since we were like 3.
Back off my grill, son!
Carol, what are you doing?
What the fuck is that?
I mean, this is clearly supposed to be a piss take of how the older generations viewed the younger generations at the time, and this theme will be emphasized in later scenes as well. That evening, Velma accidentally attends a performance displaying a ritual, hosted by a man named Nagu Tuana, along with a Mexican wrestler named Zarkos. Tuana claims that demonic entities once ruled the island, but have been plotting revenge ever since the resort took over. He asks Velma if she's scared by the display, but she completely debunks his spookiness with facts and logic.
What if I told you that I was not scared of the demons you speak of? As scientifically speaking, demonic forces do not exist to our knowledge, so logically following, the demons demonstrated in your display are produced by projectors around this area.
At a party, we get a nice name gang between Scooby and some other guy, which always makes me chuckle.
Got a call for a Mr. Do.
Melvin Do?
Nah, Scooby.
What human is unfortunate enough to have the name Do? Scooby gets baited to go to the forest while Shaggy impresses Mary Jane with his claw machine skills, and Daphne bamboozles some voodoo guy who warns her not to go into the nearby abandoned castle ride.
Unless you knew I'd figure it out. So you told me not to go up to the castle, so I would think that you wanted me to go, so I wouldn't go, just like you didn't want me to. Huh? I'll find out what you're hiding in that castle.
It's just so ridiculous. So Scooby is led to the forest and comes across one of those weird alien demon thingies, and then makes a fool of himself when Shaggy thinks he's running from some guy in a goofy bunny costume. What an L. Daphne convinces Shaggy and Scooby to go into the castle by, of course, bribing them with Scooby snacks, and the trio come across Fred and Velma as they also had the same idea. I really like the way the group come together for this scene. It does make sense that they would all have the same idea one way or another in order to solve a juicy mystery. They split up to look for clues, and Fred tries to apologize to Velma for always picking her last for the teams. This leads to some interesting dialogue from Fred.
All you care about are swimsuit models.
No! Look, I'm a man of substance. Dorky chicks like you turn me on too. Such a compliment.
Yeah, I'm sure a good chunk of the internet would agree with you on that one, Frederick. It turns out that they were being spied on by a cult leader, who begins the rides, and Daphne is caught on a roller coaster cart. Fred and Velma try to escape weapons that are coming down on them, and Shaggy and Scooby are attacked by artificial foods. Their worst nightmare. While blocking an oncoming battle axe with a book, Fred is knocked into the control room, switching the ride gone wrong off and saving everyone. Daphne comes across the Daemon Ritus, a piece needed for a demonic ritual, and steals it, while Fred and Velma watch a weird training video for the demons. This is probably one of the best parts of the movie. I'll just let this scene play.
Sorry, bro.
No big whoop, dog. Yo, did you catch that new vid on the box?
True that. I'm up to sniff on all popular trends.
Word.
Is this seriously what the fat cats of big corporations thought that the youths were like back in the day? Shaggy and Scooby then have a competition where they basically try to shit themselves, and I have never been one for toilet humour, so I've always found this part extremely cringe. I'm just gonna tell myself that this was originally a much better, darker joke before Warner Brothers got their hands on it. At another party, Velma inspects the Daemon-Ritus while telling this nerdy guy, a possible love interest, about her past with Mystery Inc. This flashback scene is radiating 60s energy, with God Only Knows by the Beach Boys playing in the background, an obvious reference to the era that the Scooby-Doo franchise was created in. This blissful scene is then interrupted by this family's nut, Scrappy. Scrappy is some psychotic freak who believes in ghosts and the supernatural in this movie, and is shown to be somewhat of a pervert.
Scrappy, I told you, no urinating on deck.
It was an accident!
You were marking your territory.
You don't have the scrote for this job, Pally!
You know, for kids!
His height and squeaky voice are also not because he is an actual puppy, but because he also has some sort of glandular problem. While this characterization of him is often discarded as unfunny and tasteless, I find it to be a hilarious take on the original, too big for his boots personality of Scrappy-Doo from the older cartoons. So finally having enough of Scrappy's antics, the group evict him, and haven't seen him since. The scene is then invaded by the demons who kidnap people including Fred and Velma. This also gives way to a Scooby-Doo musical chase scene to the song Man with the Hex by the Atomic Fireballs. The scene is full of classic Scooby-Doo gags, and you can tell that the makers of the film did actually know stuff about Scooby-Doo when making this. Our survivors, Daphne, Shaggy, Mary Jane and Scooby, wake up to find the island looking spick and span, with college kids having fun and, oh my god, is that Sugar Gay?
What's that Sugar Gay? I'm beating your fucking ass!
They split up again and Shaggy and Scooby come across Fred, who seems like he is in one of those car accident survivor situations. You know, when someone's been in a car accident and they wake up speaking a different language.
Yo, the biatch was like, what? And I was like, later on.
You know, for kids!
Zarkor steals the Daemon-Ritus from Daphne and she gets possessed, while Shaggy and Scooby hide in the bike shed. This is another scene that I love, with the zombie movie style shenanigans while they're just breaking the shed down with guitars. The pair escape on the quad bikes, and they find Mary Jane, who is very obviously possessed to everyone except Shaggy. This causes a fight between Shaggy and Scooby falls right through a perfectly placed trapdoor. Feeling guilty, Shaggy dives in right after him, and comes across a pool of protoplasmic heads, which is supposed to be the souls of the possessed holiday goers. Shaggy releases his friend, starting with Velma, whose body is walking outside when she recovers it. This allows her to discover that the demons burn and die in sunlight. Nice vampire motif movie, I like it. Fred and Daphne accidentally return to each other's bodies, and Fred says one of cinema's most down bad lines ever put to screen.
Hey, I can look at myself naked.
Oh, brother.
You know, for kids!
I remember my reaction to this line as a kid was pretty much the same as Velma. So, the group starts switching bodies until they come across the right ones, and then come across the voodoo guy from earlier. They realize the demons need the souls as an energy source to perform their ritual, in order to rule the earth for 10,000 years. However, they also need a purely good soul, which turns out to be Scooby. Scooby is manipulated by Mondavarius to be sacrificed, and the gang form a plan to rescue him and save the world. Cue the 80s montage. The ritual begins and things start going wrong, so the gang pretend to be cult members in order to not get caught. Fred makes a muppet of himself, exposing him and Velma. Shaggy is too late to stop Scooby from having his soul sucked out, but manages to stop Mondavarius from absorbing him, although he does absorb a lot of the other souls. Fred and Velma try to do the whole man in a mask routine with Mondavarius, who turns out to be a robot being controlled by none other than Scrappy-Doo. This reveal scared the shit out of me the first time I watched this. I was like 6, okay? And while it is wacky, it makes perfect sense considering how bizarre this movie is in general, and how crazy Scrappy was presented as earlier too. Unfortunately, the little monster has absorbed enough energy to grow into some kind of awful CGI Scrappy Titan. However, he does still need Scooby to complete the ritual, and Scooby tries to throw his similarly named pal from before under the bus.
Wait, what do you mean Melvin do?
Daphne makes her way up to the top of the mountain in order to open the vent, but is hindered by Zarkos, who tries to beat her up. Thankfully though, Daphne turns into Buffy and beats the shit out of him, freeing all of the souls and releasing the disco ball just in time. Shaggy uncovers the real Emil Montevarius, and Scrappy and his little pals are arrested. So it's all well that ends well, and Mystery Inc. has managed to save the day yet again. In case it wasn't obvious enough from my commentary, I've always liked this movie, and I really don't believe it deserves the hate it has received since its release. I think it could have been a lot funnier still if Warner Brothers didn't tamper with it, but a lot of the adult humour in James Gunn's style of writing still comes through successfully. I think a lot of the criticism comes from trying to analyse the movie while under the impression that it's a serious Scooby-Doo adaptation when it's still very clearly not. The main cast were all well-known and popular horror actors, and I mean, the movie is still full of R-rated jokes. I don't see how anyone could take this seriously. There are even compilations of adult jokes from it, one of which I've linked in the description. As I said earlier, you can tell that the creators did know stuff about Scooby-Doo while making this movie, and wanted to do something fun with the franchise, and in my opinion, they still succeeded. I really like how they included the trope that while Shaggy and Scooby are meant to be cowardly and bait, when things get too much for the other members, those two are the ones to save their necks. A criticism I used to hear about this a lot is how this movie tried to add supernatural elements to the Scooby-Doo universe, when that's not even true. Stories with actual supernatural events have been presented in Scooby-Doo for ages, even before this movie was released. I can agree that the CGI is very dated though, but it looked better in some parts than others, and I think Scooby's design makes him look very cute. If that's too distracting to you, and you don't like the style of humour that is used in this movie, I understand why you wouldn't like it. But I will defend this movie until the end of time because I love it. It's like a time capsule of the early 2000s. Well, that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe and leave your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, thanks for watching.
Nothing like a polo to ease my mind. With polos by my side, I'll always shine. The blue and green ones are my favorite kind, but I'll eat the colored ones from time to time. Cause polos is life, 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 polos is life. Sleep all night and then